I'd like to welcome everybody to today's presentation of estimating dashboards and exporting proposals to Excel. Two new exciting features that Stack has released recently. My name is Roy. I will be your tour guide today. I am a training specialist too. I've been with Stack now for over 3 years, and I really enjoy what I get to do. Because getting to talk to you guys, the hardworking people that build the stuff that I live and work in, it's just a pleasure. You guys are patient and you're kind and you're funny, and man, that makes my job easy. So thank you. I appreciate that. A little housekeeping before we get started. We're going to leave you guys in listen-only mode during the presentation today. There are enough of you in class that if I let everybody unmute themselves all at once, it could be pandemonium. So we're going to avoid that. If you have questions during the presentation, please throw those questions into the Q&A feature in Zoom. They've disabled the chat, but the Q&A is there for you, and myself or one of my moderators will get those questions answered for you, either as they come in or after class. At the end of class, sometime probably within 48 hours, you guys are going to receive an email that's got a link so that you can rewatch this session. It's a lot of good stuff. So watch out for that email. What are we going to talk about today? Today, we're going to talk about the new estimate dashboard. We're going to talk about some of the numbers that we're going to see. We're going to talk about where those numbers come from. We're going to talk about the estimate worksheet. We're going to see where those numbers come from and how you can adjust some of those numbers. We're going to talk about account settings to the extent we're going to talk about trade names, and we're going to talk about scopes of work and terms and conditions templates, things that you may have already configured in your stack, but maybe not. And if you haven't, when you go to export these proposals to Excel, it's going to look a little barren. So we're going to touch on that. We're going to look at the output and see what we get out of Stack in the way of an Excel spreadsheet. And then we're going to take some questions and answers at the end. So that is that. Let me pop myself to Stack. There it is. So we've got our projects here, right? We want to get in, we want to look at estimates. So we go find our project. Here it is. Awesome. This little button right here is the fastest way to get into your estimates. Okay. Boom. We're looking at estimates already. Okay. We click into the estimate. It takes us straight to the dashboard. Dashboard data loads based on the data that we've got entered into our worksheet here. In a minute. There it is. Okay. Awesome. So we've got totals here at the top. We've got base costs, right? We've got base costs. We've got our selling price up here. This profit, this net profit here is the, hold on, let me get in here. Right. Okay, so this is the profit divided by the subtotal. Okay, that gives you your net profit. That's how that number is calculated. Your gross margin is the margin total divided by the subtotal. That gives you this gross margin. We show you the number of hours it's going to take based on the hours, the labor hours that you've added, and we'll point that out in a minute. Over here, you've got the key unit prices. This is very similar to what we had in the old material and labor estimate. You can plug in the total square footage if that's what you're keying off of. And based on the numbers that you plugged into your worksheet, we'll tell you what your selling price and your profit is per, right, unit of measure. So this is awesome. You've got base costs here. Stack has broken out different types, different categories of costs that you can add to your estimate. We've got direct costs, we've got indirect costs, we've got contingency costs. We're going to see all these in a minute once we get back to the worksheet. And we've got overhead broken out specifically as opposed to profit. We know what profit is specifically at this point in the life of this estimate worksheet. Okay. Direct costs, the materials, the labor that you assign to your takeoffs. Indirect costs, maybe you need a security guard, or you need a supervisor, or you need something, right? That's something for the entire project. That's not specifically for a particular takeoff. And then contingency costs. It might rain. And so we need a contingency in here. We need to be able to charge the customer if it happens. And if it doesn't happen, we're not going to charge you for it. Right? Those are your contingencies. Overhead specifically identified as overhead and profit as profit. Um, you get your selling price, your base costs are summed, your margin is summed, your selling price is your subtotal plus tax, specifically called out tax, and that gets you your selling price. So a lot of really good information in here. A lot of really good, a lot of really useful information in this dashboard. Come over here to the worksheet. We get to see your takeoffs, right? Most of you have probably experienced this already. You get to see your takeoffs and the items assigned to those takeoffs, and sometimes you've got takeoffs that don't have items. Okay, no problem, right? You've got values in here that you can plug in. Maybe we're going to plug in $1 for material costs for my concrete cut lines, and we're going to plug in $20 per linear foot for this takeoff. And the equipment is going to be $2 per linear foot for this takeoff, and you can start to add up items or not items in your estimate. You get to see the hours, right? We've got carpenters here. They are sold in hours, and so we get to see the hours specifically in our estimate. Okay. Let's see. Let's get this out, right? Let's export this to Excel. Nah, sorry, wrong button. Let's export this to as an Excel proposal. Okay. This looks very similar to what you've already seen. You can show a summary, you can show subtotals on the first page. How do you want to organize those subtotals? You want to organize it by sheet that you've drawn on, or takeoff that you've created, or tag that you've assigned, or label that you've assigned? How do you want to organize this data, the summary, the subtotal data that you show on the first page? How do you want to organize your line item details? Same way. Okay. You're going to choose your trade name. You're going to choose your customer out of your customer list. Here, we're going to show the scope of work templates, all of the text that we might have chosen out of any of these scopes, right? Here's the standard scope, and we want to edit the standard scope. We want to reduce some of this white space here. We want to put our cursor down here, and we want to go choose a different template. Okay, exclusions. Now we've got all that text here, what we used to have and what we just added. And the same with terms and conditions. You can be super granular with this boilerplate text that you always include in every quote. Right? Here's my standard terms and conditions. Well, that's nice, but we don't have any signature lines, right? We don't want to use Stack's signature line. I want to use my own. So we're going to include the signature section of my terms and conditions, and boom, there it is. Now we've got the text that we need. But where do you maintain all this? Where do you maintain your trade name? Okay. I'm going to cancel from here. We're going to have to go redo that in a minute, but that's okay. We're going to cancel from there. We're going to come up and we're going to look at our account settings. On the company profile tab of our account settings, we see what we do, right? This is what you've identified to stack is what you're into. And we've got one or more trade names here that we could include in the quotes that we create. Trade names include the logo that you've uploaded, the name that you've established, and your contact information that you might want to include in your quote. On the account settings tab, if we scroll all the way to the bottom past all this other cool looking stuff, we've got scopes of work and terms and conditions templates that we can create, right? Here's my signature section that I might want to include in a quote at some point. That includes the name of the template and the text that you want to appear in your quote. And so setting up your templates and establishing your trade names is going to make your quotes look professional and complete when you create them. So let's get back into that estimate. We've got the numbers that we filled in. Come on. Come on. There it is. Okay. We've got the numbers that we filled in. We've got our dashboard here. Here's my new base cost based on the edits that I just made. We've got $10,000 profit. Now, something else I should probably show you guys is this little section down here. This is new too, new-ish. Okay. Here's all these categorized costs. Profit, specifically. Material tax called out specifically. And as you add these categorized rows in here, you can either distribute them back into your estimate or not. I may be about to sneeze. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, so if we look over here, you've got distributed costs, which is going to be these direct and indirect costs. These are all direct costs up here. You can add in additional direct or indirect costs, right click and add a cost. And you can distribute those costs up here into the direct and indirect distributed column. If you've got profit or overhead, that is going to come over here to the margin column, the distributed margin column. And that distributed margin column is what we're looking at here. Okay. That's how all that's put together. So once we're done, once it all looks good, we come down here, we export this to Excel. How do you want to organize your subtotals? How do you want to organize your line item details? It's up to you. Which trade name are we going to choose? Which customer are we going to choose? I've only got one. That's okay, though. Scope of work, terms and conditions. Let's change this a little bit here. And then we'll go choose another template. Here we go. And the terms. My mouse cursor was in the wrong place. There we go. There it is. Okay. So yeah, and because we've got these signature lines, we don't care about this. Turn that off. And we can download this proposal to Excel. When we do, what you're going to get is a download in your browser. in a minute. Zoom, there it is. Zoom is a very resource intensive application if you haven't already experienced that. So here's my proposal. We double click, wait for it to open. Thinking about it. There it is. All right. And so here's my logo. Here's the name of my project. Here's my trade name and all my contact information. Here's my customer information. Here's my data grouped by label. On the narratives tab, we get to see all the text. Let's enable editing here. We get to see all the text that's going to be included in this section. Here's my signature lines. On the third page, we get to see our line item details. And what's really cool about exporting this to Excel before anything else happens is if you don't want to include the unit price on these items, cool. Click, delete. Fine. No, that's not what I wanted, Excel. No. There you go. Boom. Now you don't have to show it to your customer. Okay. If you want to change these colors, you know what? I don't like that black. I'd rather have it green. You can do that. You can format this just the way you want to present it to your customer. And when you're done, come up here to File, Save as Adobe PDF. When you save it as a PDF, going to open a pop-up window here. There it is. Make sure that you choose the entire workbook. Okay. You don't want just the one page that you were looking at. You want all the pages. Convert it to PDF. Sure. Go. Just go. Give it a name. Let's call this Stack Live. Save it. It saves it as your PDF, and then on my system, at least, it opens it immediately. Here's my PDF. Here's page 1. There's my terms and conditions and scope of work and my line item details. Cool. That's it. That's it. This is really not going to be a long session unless you guys have a bunch of questions. This is it. So, yeah. Let me check the Q&A here. All right. Let me pop myself back to the PowerPoint. Who's got questions? Timothy says, webinar registration didn't send me an invite. Interesting. We will have to look into that. Anonymous says, can you show us what the final proposal looks like again? Absolutely. Let me pop over to, where is my PDF? PDF. All right, hold on. Let me go find Windows Explorer. And we will open up, not that. All right, fine. We'll just do it again. Oh, that's right. It's going to be in downloads. Give me a minute. There it is. It's going to be. All right. So there's the first page. There's your scope of work and terms and conditions. Go away. And there's your line item details. Yes, Timothy, we will absolutely send you the recording. Thank you, Harvey. I appreciate that. Anonymous says, how can you deduct subcontractor labor prices from an estimate? What you would do is get rid of your PDF and get yourself back to Stack. Stack, where are you, Stack? There you are. On the worksheet, you want to not include subcontractor costs in your estimate. Let me think about that for a minute. We have talked about adding in the ability to filter based on cost type. Today, that is not an option in this estimate. I think that would get you where you want to be immediately. And what I would suggest is leave us feedback up here and add your voice to the other list of people that have chimed in and said, hey, we need to be able to adjust the estimate based on cost type. That is the only way that I can think of right now on the fly to get done what you're asking about. Let's see. Can you show again how we come up with the gross margin and what other costs are accounted for the gross margin? Okay. So the gross margin is the margin, which is overhead and profit summed, divided by the subtotal. This divided by that. And the margin is your overhead numbers and your profit numbers, which are here. Let's see. How can I add my non-measured item sets? Unfortunately, today that is not an option. Non-measured item sets are a material and labor thing. They have not, Dev has not put that feature into this estimate yet. We have talked about it. There's not a tremendous number of customers that are using them, so they haven't put a lot of weight behind that. But again, I will recommend to you, leave feedback. If you need that feature, let us know. Okay. How can I show only tax and not the additional cost? One of these days, soon, in the output, and let's get back to the output here. Doop. Output, output, output. Where are you? Output. There you are. One of these days soon, you're gonna have you're gonna have tax here as a specific thing. Today, it's all rolled into additional costs, but one of these days, you're gonna have tax as a line item, the same way that you do with the material and labor estimate. So it's coming. I can't tell you when though, but it's something that we're pushing for because, it would be very handy if this was like for like to the material and labor estimate, and that's one of the things that differs. So good call out, Michael. Let's see. How are you including overhead? Isn't overhead not directly attributable to a specific project? So overhead, the overhead that we're talking about here is not okay. The overhead to run a business, the costs that you incur doing business, that's what overhead is to us. And yes, overhead is not attributable to any one particular project, which is why we would say, you know what, the overhead we've got here, the overhead is going to be a percentage of this project, and it's going to be a percentage of my estimate base total, base costs here. Okay. And we just plug in just a little bit in each project to cover the overhead of the costs of doing business. That's what that is right there. Let's see. Can you show how to export it into PDF? I missed that part. No problem. Okay. So we've got our worksheet here. We've plugged in all of our numbers. Come on, all of our costs into the worksheet. We come back to the dashboard. Yep, looks good. Profits good. Margins good. All of our numbers here look good. The total number of hours it's going to take us looks within line. The selling price is good based on the size, the square footage of the building. Cool. All right. Come back to the worksheet. Click on the stack dots in the upper right corner of this worksheet and export this worksheet to our Excel proposal. Identify how you want to organize it, and if you even want, right? Maybe you don't want subtotals on the first page. Okay, cool, right? Maybe you don't want line item details. Great. If you do, right, tell us how to organize them. Let's organize them by takeoff. You know what? For fun, let's also include the takeoff description. Why not? Choose your customer or choose your trade name and your customer that you're going to send this to. Outline your scopes of work and terms and conditions. Then download this to Excel. What you're going to get up here in your downloads folder is the Excel sheet. In a minute. Once it gets around to it. There you go. Thank you, Stack. So now we double click on this and it opens Excel for me. Not that one. Come on. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Excel, you need to get on with it. Let's try that again. Downloads, go. Excel, you're killing me. All right, so here we go. Here's what you get. We didn't include subtotals, so we don't get subtotals. On the narratives, let's edit this first. Okay, you get all of your text. On the line item details, you get to see your line item details. And we've got, do any of these have descriptions? No, they don't. Well, the descriptions would be here, shown under the takeoff. So from there, file, save this to Adobe. The little pop-up pops up. Do the entire workbook. Make sure you do the entire workbook or you're only going to get one page, whichever page you were looking at. And then convert it to a PDF. Yes, fine, go. Give it a name, put it in a location, save it. And then on my workstation, at least, it's going to open automatically. And there it is. So, great questions so far. Let's see. I've had situations where I can't get the software total up with the square footage at the end of the takeoff. What am I doing wrong? Uh, Harvey, that's a tough one on a webinar. The next time that happens, call into support or no, don't call into support. Use the chat. Use the chat down here and ping support and say, hey, I'm having an issue with my estimate. This is the project. This is the estimate name. This is what I'm seeing, and ask them to take a look at it for you. So, great questions. We had about 35 people in the room earlier. We've got 27 left. Hopefully you guys are having fun. What other questions do you guys have? We'll wait just a minute for them to roll in. Who else has questions? Can you add indirect cost? Can you add indirect cost and direct cost like assemblies? Not completely sure I understand the question, Michael, but you can add rows down here in the other cost section that are indirect costs or direct costs. You can assign an accounting code to those costs if you need to integrate with your accounting system. What you do not get is any kind of identification as to what cost type it is, because there's no cost type here. It's not, these are cost types. These are material things or labor things. These are simply indirect costs or direct costs that you might add down here. I'm not necessarily sure that answered the question, but does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. Does anybody else have any other questions? Going once. Let's see. Timothy says, so in terms of Michael's question, okay. If we're trying to break out an additional scope of the project, say I have 3 different types of fencing going into a location, but the fourth is specialized material and therefore labor set that I want to list and an optional addition. Can I build out a proposal to reflect this? Um, I would probably do that as its own takeoff. And then if you need to, you can filter that takeoff in or out. I'm not sure that I would try and build basically a takeoff with items down here. You probably could, but that's not what it's designed for. That's an interesting concept. Timothy, consider scheduling something with one of our trainers and propose that to them and see what they can come up with. Myself or one of my coworkers can work with you on that. Can I display costs worksheet by a tag option? Yes. When you export your data to Excel proposals, you get to show sorted or grouped um, summary data by tag or by label, and you get to group your details by tag or by label as well. Yes, you can do that. Yes. Rob answers yes. Yep. Always yes. Timothy, you are absolutely right. There is always room for improvement, and we recognize that, which is why we want your feedback. Okay. We want to hear from you. So, good call on that. Can I view it prior to exporting? No. You can view it prior to PDF, which is the Excel sheet, right? This is your preview prior to producing something for your customer. But there is no way to preview this like we used to do in the material and labor estimate. That's not an option. Not an option anymore. So sorry, Rob. Any other questions? Who else has got questions? Rob, I will encourage you to give us feedback. Okay. Tell them that you liked the preview. You liked to be able to look at it real quick and then click close here and get back to what you were doing. Let them know. Let them know. It can never hurt. What's the difference between tags and labels on the proposal sheet? Okay. So that is actually something we cover in training number 2, but I will give you a real quick overview. Takeoffs, right? Building conditions can have tags assigned to them. A tag assigned to a building condition is kind of a 10,000-foot view. Okay, what is this thing? This is a CSI 08. Or what CSI is really the best example I've got. It's additional information that you assign to your takeoff as a concept as a conceptual thing. Okay. A label is something that you assign to your take or to your measurement, specifically that measurement of that takeoff. This measurement of this takeoff, this wall's interior, has been labeled with phase 2. Some other measurement of that takeoff could be labeled with a different phase. And so now this measurement is phase 2, and this measurement here is phase 1. And the labels are a much more granular thing at the measurement level, whereas tags are a much higher level because the tag applies to all of the measurements of that takeoff. Come hang out with me for training number 2, or attend our small group training number 2. We talk about the takeoff tags, and we talk about measurement labels and how you can use them in training number 2. Understood. Rob, you might regarding non-measured item sets, you might want to get with one of our trainers, myself or one of our other trainers. You can create template projects. Okay. Your template projects can have template estimates in them. And those template estimates can be seeded already with a bunch of items that you add in here based on whatever. That may be a workaround for you, but schedule some time with one of our trainers and we can explore your need of non-measured item sets and how you can work around that in the new estimate. Nope, that's okay. Vent away. You're good. Template projects and template estimates may be able to get you where you need to be. Can you change the total selling price based on the desired gross margin? One of these days, but not today. One of these days, you're going to be able to take the dashboard and come on, be able to change these numbers over here and have them get applied to your numbers on the worksheet. Right? You'll be able to change the selling price. You'll be able to change the cost or the profit or the goal is to allow you to change values in here and have those changes, have those dollars flow down into these dollars here. That's the hope. That's the goal. Let's see what happens when I have several indirect costs and it is easier to have one than several rows. Attach them as well as assemblies. Michael, I think I'm not, my brain's not processing your question / desire. Get with a trainer on that. Harvey, you ask for a link for a training. Chat in down here with the chat and talk to our support group and get a link from them. They can get that for you. Are the older estimates going to be deprecated? Yes, they are. And if so, when? We don't know. But yes, older estimates are going to be deprecated one of these days. Other questions? There have been a tremendous number of questions, and this is awesome. Love it. We got 22 people in the room still. Y'all are winners. Absolutely. Going once. Going twice. Sold. To the student in the back of the room with her hand up. All right. Watch for the email. If you have questions, chat in. Use that chat. 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, Eastern time. Chat in if you have questions. And come back next month. We're going to have another exciting session presented by somebody else, probably. And we will we'll get you guys in the know. Thank you very much for your time. Please have an awesome week. We'll look forward to talking to you again soon.